Can't recall.
Oh, so it's interesting that you brought up too the knowledge graph thing, because as far as rich snippets, similar concept, Google now is allowing people to customize their rich snippets. I don't know if you saw that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, which there's a few ways they say you do it with markup and things like that, and then also too in the knowledge panel there was word of Google Translate being implemented in the knowledge panel, and those two things together I think are very interesting. Being able to essentially influence what, and I think that's really interesting too because they just took out the stars. They're like, hey, we don't want people just, but now people can go in and just put whatever they want for a snippet. And Google obviously doesn't have the best algorithm to determine truth or validity of something at this moment. So how does that, now that anyone can just go in and mark up a snippet, it's like this FAQ schema. You know what I mean? Like how is, we might see some crazy stuff going on in the communities with the FAQ and the rich snippet schema. And,
yeah. It's always a constant journey of optimization.
Mm-hmm.
To try to stand out and get those clicks or whatever.
Well, I'd love to test that rich snippet to see if SERPs that don't return a rich snippet, if we could generate a markup that would essentially make sense for that SERP and get that
I'm sure
in the snippets.
I'm sure you could at least. Well, I'd say especially in local or in markets or SERPs where it's not saturated with other SEOs who want to accomplish the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely see that being a thing.
Because my thought on it is that Google would like to show a rich snippet for every search. They would like to just show this is what you're looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give people what they're looking for and then have them go back to checking their email on Google or whatever on Google. They don't want you to click away to another site. But there's a lot of searches now that don't have rich snippets or Google doesn't have the data to say this is what should be here. But now by giving webmasters the choice to mark up those rich snippets, they might be looking to pull that data similar with the new link attributes and kind of figure out how they can present more of the direct data through a rich snippet feature.
I think a lot of this comes down to also, I think everybody's going to have to consider, for which queries would those snippets be appropriate and welcome? The behavior of the query would have to come into play for that to be effective in the local space. So many people, man, you make the query, you scroll, you click the call button. It's easy, it's fast. I don't know. I imagine it would go in like we were talking about earlier. We did a really cool, we'll probably make a post on this, or once we get attribution further defined on a larger scale, but we were just looking at content strategies for local sites. And Mike ran one of our agency's clients through. Well, he went and checked the analytics. That made it seem like this real technical.
I opened up Webmasters.
Yeah.
And looked at the pages.
You guys probably never heard of it, but that's okay.
It's now Search Console, in case you're not old.
Yeah. But the idea was to see it was to justify the blogging, the monthly blogging for local clients, and our initial hypothesis was to kill it. Was to spend the time and money doing other SEO activities.
Especially those money terms. And, money terms, we call them those, but we might be too narrow on that path from our findings.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because the informational terms, those informational pages were getting an impressive amount of traffic.
They were.
So
some of them even more than the money terms. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
It's a lot more.
So when you think of it that way, pages like that to produce the snippet, to produce, anything to get the click. Whether, I understand the snippet is, there's also different behaviors with snippets. If I say, what's the weather?
Yeah.
And you go, I don't need to click through to weather.com. I don't need to go to a site, which, hey, that sucks for weather.com and the ad money they used to make back in the day when you used to
Yeah.
have to go to weather.com to
Looking
see
up
the
song
weather.
lyrics. That's
Oh.
a big one.
Oh man,
Yes.
yeah, for sure.
That
There's-
one's changed a lot.
There's a lot of behaviors that, like, yeah, it killed off probably a lot of ad network revenue for sure. But there's also a lot of things like we were just talking, like how much do I get if this happens? You know, when we were talking about personal injury, like how much is a personal injury case worth, and the traffic we got from those, and you know, that's something where you might see a range, but that's still gonna, you're still gonna like potentially click through because you want to know how that range is justified.
Yeah.
Because like, how was it injured? If you can make that snippet to where it has some different case types, and it's just there's some information there,
Call to action.
but you have to get in it. Like, you have to go and actually read to understand where you fall.
You're doing intent research, really.
Exactly.
At that point, that's what I've been focused on. Like, I hate the word keyword research now. Like, keyword research,
When did you start hating the word keyword research?
probably about a year ago.
Really?
Or so, yeah. Because at the end of the day, Google search comes down to intent. It's how it classifies what page it's going to put up. You could have two different searches, get the same website, but get two different pages. So when you do keyword research, and especially now, the data is so skewed with like number of clicks and stuff, like you're better off running a PPC campaign if you want to know what kind of clicks you're getting for terms. So at the end of the day, and at the same thing too, I don't want to optimize for just one term. I'm going to optimize for a blanket term, you know, a whole set of terms. So I do like to look at, what's the most searched term and get like an idea from that and, you know, make that a focal point. But at the end of the day, when I'm looking at site architecture, how I'm going to build it out and what I actually have to do to rank, I'm looking at intent, what kind of content I'm providing,
Sure.
what page it's going to be on, how are the other pages going to reference it.
Yeah,
And that's definitely the most important part, at least nowadays.
I like what you're saying. And I think that's where you have to look at, like, where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, and, you know, trying to grab those local snippets and whatnot. You know, what's the intent of the page, and then once they're there, what's your blog look like? What's your blog template look like? Is it designed to convert? You know, which is, you know, once we get some more I's dotted and T's crossed, we're gonna probably release a case study on that of our findings.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting stuff, and you know, but it's where are you going to put your efforts? Like, I don't know if I'd try getting a lander, you know, a case type lander to pop for too much, because based on that query, I don't know. And then there's the entire idea of cannibalization. You have to be so careful now with your informational pages, what you get them ranking for.
Yeah.
You know, is some of the stuff going to serve you better as an FAQ under one of your landing pages? And instead of going for the snippet, go for the organic ranking with the larger, I don't know what I'm doing, the larger amount of real estate. Yeah, how we do,
It's our measurement system here.
how numbers are measured. Things we're doing like this, now they're this good.
We're shooting for here, though.
Always shooting for that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think, again, so much of it's situational.
Well, that's the thing. I used to blog one blog post a week for all my clients, which, like, I had a roofing client. We're doing 4 blog posts a month. And yeah, and you get to the point where you look at it and you're like, okay, so our impressions and clicks were going through the roof. Like, the clients loved looking at that SEM Rush report. But when we actually start looking at it, you start to realize, like, you know, these blogs don't really get much interaction. And that's why today, when I went and looked at those blog posts, like, if you're doing 4 blog posts a month, you might want to say, hey, let's cut that to 1 and put some of that extra time into some keyword research, on-page optimization, you know. Or if you're doing 1 a month now, say, hey, we're only going to do 1 every 2 months. And put some more budget into actual, you know, content strategy, and really just find those words that are going to produce the traffic and optimize for those.
I think that's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a quality over quantity
Exactly.
type of thing. Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we want that 80-20. And, I mean, I definitely understand the concept of blog, because there's also that understanding, too, that producing that organic traffic will build the site's trust as well. Say like none of those clicks are converting, but you're just producing like 70% of your traffic from organic through your blog. You know what I mean? Like that could, people will say that's a trust signal, and this and that. I unfortunately don't have too much testing on that, besides that traffic is good for sites. But
Traffic is usually not a bad thing.
no, that's usually a good thing. Yeah.